We still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. Welcome along to Ask Gibbo this morning, and it is all the smiling faces, John, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I mean, you could not believe it. I was reduced to tears on the final whistle because it had been the perfect performance. I mean, it was the perfect result, it was the perfect attitude, and it was the perfect performance. I mean, I was laughing and joking with you that I'd cancelled dying because I wanted to see Newcastle win something. I thought I had died and gone to heaven, you know. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I had to get up the next morning and pinch myself and see if it hurt to realise I hadn't dreamed it. It was, I mean, you couldn't have wished for it any better. And it would be careless to do so. But if people look at the scoreline, 2-1, that flattered Liverpool, Steve.
Yeah.
3-0, like I had to sit through the wrong way around in 74. That would have told about the gulf in class between Newcastle and Liverpool on the day. We absolutely battered them. It was a master class from Eddie, and every one of the players produced what we were praying they would produce, attitude-wise, hunger, desire, discipline to carry out what Eddie was telling them to the letter. And I mean, they just looked ragtag and bobtail, didn't they? The team that's top of the Premier League with one defeat in 29 looked ragtag and bobtail. I mean, their strength, Steve, all season, Mo Salah, all his goals, and a platform in midfield with McAllister and the other two boys that have dominated things. Mo Salah, you couldn't find him because he was in Tino Livermento's back pocket. Never saw him. And as far as the midfield were concerned, our three, and we had said in the build-up, didn't we, that we thought it would be one in midfield, one or lost in midfield. Tonali, Bruno, and Big Joe absolutely bullied their midfield and dictated everything that happened during the game. It was the perfect way of winning it. And you know what? I look back, Stephen, you've got to sometimes realise, I mean, how fortunate were we? We beat Arsenal home and away in the semi-final. We beat Liverpool in the final. And before that, we beat Nottingham Forest and Chelsea. Now, they are currently the top four sides in the Premier League. And we beat all four to win the cup. So nobody can say we fluked it or we got lucky or anything, can you? We beat the top four teams in the country to win the Carabao Cup, and that was truly magnificent.
It was. I mean, we're still on cloud nine. I mean, so many people, we're all messaging each other this week. I think a lot of people have watched it back, just to make sure that we won. But the build up to the actual cup final itself, we were, I guess, we were all trying to stay positive. I don't think we could have expected beyond the wildest dreams that kind of performance from the lads. What was your initial response when you saw the team, John?
The selection of the team.
Yeah.
I thought the only decision that had to be made anyway was in goal. I think the 10 outfield players for me picked themselves. There was a lot of Geordies that wanted to see Dubrovka start, and I can understand that because I was a little bit nervous about Pope playing with his feet, and he'd looked a bit flappy on crosses, and so I was a little bit surprised, but yet I wasn't because when it comes to the crunch, Eddie will go back to nature, and his number one has been Pope, and I've got to say that Pope did absolutely nothing wrong. He produced one superb save. It was straight above him, I'll accept that, but he got there quickly and got it over the bar. Um, the whole thing, I mean, everybody was tingling before the game. 3 minutes to the start of the kickoff, I got a phone call from Los Angeles. It was Ian Lafreniere giving me a ring, the likely lads lad, to say, "Give what we're going to do it today, fingers and toes crossed. Let's not be humiliated, etc., etc." He was on immediately after the game. He watched it live out there. It was 9:30 in the morning in LA, and then everybody's been on. Old Newcastle players from all over the country have been on to me. Malcolm come on, which was lovely to hear. Malcolm was saying what a lift it was for him personally. Perfect performance, he said. Masterclass from Eddie Howe. Uh, People have had people on from Malta, Spain, Portugal, Hong Kong, and Australia. Just to say, Gibbo, it was almost as if I'd won it. Gibbo, you deserve it, you old sod. I haven't waited so long for it. You'd think I was just checking. It was Dan Burn that had it, not me, wasn't it? That's the feeling. Everybody's patting each other on the back, Steve, aren't they?
Yeah.
Everybody is just so thrilled to bits. And I had John Hall on saying, "Isn't it great the long wait we had, etc., etc." He's arranged a celebration lunch. He's got in touch with me to do a celebration lunch with him next week for part of the Magpie group. I mean, everybody that cares about Newcastle United appear to have been on to say how overwhelmed they are. And you know what, Steve? Like you and like me, not just the result, but the manner of the result, the way we played. I mean, we played the way we dreamed we might play, and we played the way we've played this season, but we've done it for 20 minutes, haven't we? Or we've done it for one half of a game. We've never, and when we went 1-0 up with that wonderful header just on the stroke of half time, you've got time at half time to think, haven't you? And my thought was, please, boys, whatever you do, just give us more of the same. Do not go on the back foot. Don't try to hold Liverpool the second half because you think that Slot's going to get right into them and they're going to come out like roaring tigers. And you think, don't get deeper and deeper and deeper in hand, sacrifice things to them. And they didn't. And of course, we find out that with hindsight, that is one of the things Eddie did at half time was stress to them how often they've taken their foot off the accelerator at half time in league games and surrendered possession in the first quarter of an hour of the second half and then never been able to put the foot back on the pedal. And we didn't do that, which was magnificent. Then once Isaac scored, it was time to get the cigars out in the deck chairs, wasn't it? And reach for a glass of chilled white because we knew we'd win then. And even when they scored, I thought we played so well, Steve. Even when they scored, I didn't get a panic. That in the last 5 minutes, it's all going to go to bits, and they're going to equalise, and we're going to be into extra time. Uh, I thought they didn't look as if they knew what to do about it, either the players or Slot.
Yeah, it's so difficult, isn't it, in a game like that to pick out the man of the match. Obviously, the man who got the man of the match for the cup final was Big Dan Burn. I mean, would you say that was your choice, or would you have picked somebody
Yeah, well,
different?
it's interesting, Steve. As you say, you could almost make a case out for making any of them man of the match because there wasn't a failure. Normally there's a couple of good performances, a couple of just above average, then there's average, and there's a couple who struggled. I mean, you can see why he went to Danburn. 6'7" header like that. Uh, gets in the England squad. I mean, dear, oh dear, dear. This guy used to push trolleys round Asda and play for Blythe Town. And I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful story. I thought that you could easily have given it, and I might have given it Although I've got no complaints about Byrne getting it, but I might have given it to Joe Linton, who I thought was a beast of a man in midfield. I mean, he is an absolute colossus. Who gets? I mean, there's one stage you tracked a guy back 40 yards, not just got in a tackle, put his body between man and ball, took the ball off him, and come away with it. I mean, that is the strength of the man. That was him at his best. And we've got to remember when we went down to Liverpool, we lost, what was it, 2-0? And we really didn't get a kick. And Eddie Howe learned a lot from that game. But in that game, Steve, we didn't have Joe Linton in the side and we didn't have Isaac in the side. And that makes a heck of a difference. And I just thought Joe Linton, it was terrific because he'd got a couple of games under his belt to get the rust from his body. He's a big lad. He doesn't go into top gear automatic when he comes back from an injury layoff. He'd had a couple of games to get rid of some of the rust, and he was absolutely top of the pops. Tonali was terrific. Isaac scored the goal, 23 of the season, 25 last season. Dear, oh dear, what a finish. Wonderful. But was quite quiet. But I felt by his high standards, he was quite quiet. But Steve, that's what good strikers do. They're able to be quiet. They lurk, they wait for the opportunity, then they strike like cobra. And in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, he had one goal choked off, not his fault, and another scored. That's what good strikers do. That's what Shearer did, and Supermac did, and Jackie Milburn did. People forget that in 1955, the last time we won the domestic trophy, 1955, uh, Jackie Milburn was dropped for the final, as you well know, and then reinstated, scored the fastest goal ever at Wembley, 43 seconds, to put us ahead. But the rest of the game, he was pretty well inconspicuous. But a superstar striker, that's what he does. He got the ball rolling, he won the cup for us, he's acted exactly the same, without it being a match that made him stand alone. Um, but there were a lot of good performances. I mean, Livramento, left back, did anyone bother telling him that he was on his wrong side and he should be a bit cautious? I mean, it was a Rolls Royce. He was an absolute Rolls Royce on his wrong side. We were supposed to be going to get ripped to bits down that left, that flank, because we hadn't Gordon and we hadn't Hall, and we had Livramento on his wrong side and Harvey Bonds, who won't come back, and were supposed to be ripped apart. Never saw Mo Salah. In fact, I didn't know. I mean, he's the right size to jump into the back pocket of Tino, but I mean, we never saw him. And again, I think that's where Joe Linton gets a few more pluses, because it wasn't so much Bonds coming back and helping Tino in the way that Gordon does. I thought Joe Linton playing that left side did a lot of good work around Tino to make certain that the two of them could tuck up more Salah. And I think Joe Linton did that well as well.
Yeah, 100%. Just moving on to the manager, Eddie Howe. I mean, you know, we've discussed this. We've discussed it this season. Where does Eddie Howe stand in the list of Newcastle United managers? You know, and
remember, Steve, you got me to write a piece on that. You put that forward as the peg for the article in one of your mags.
fanzines, yeah.
Where do I wait?
So my question to you is: has your opinion changed because now he's won a trophy?
Of course, it changes. I think it will be very difficult to decide where he is in the pecking order of Newcastle United managers until he's completed. Because he could complete his career at St James's Park with one trophy. He could complete his career at St James's Park with half a dozen trophies. Now, if you've got half a dozen trophies, you're out of sight, aren't you? As the number decide finally where a manager is in a pecking order while he is still the manager of the club. Because Eddie Howe could finish his career at Newcastle United as winner of one trophy, the League Cup, or by the time he finishes his career at Newcastle, hopefully he could have half a dozen trophies, in which case he would stand alone, head and shoulders above anyone else. I mean, as things stand at this moment, Steve, statistically, he's already elbowed out of the way two of the most loved managers in Newcastle's history in Kevin Keegan and Bobby Robson. If we go on statistics, and football is 90% of that, isn't it? Football's about winning or losing. That's what decides. And he's won a trophy, and neither Bobby or Kevin Keegan did. Although I would never dismiss either because they were sensational. KK finished twice his uh, Premier League runners up because the second one was his team. And Bobby played about 14 Champions League matches in one season and finished their top. So they're wonderful, wonderful. But really, Eddie has announced that he's challenging Joe Harvey as the most successful manager in Newcastle's history. I don't think he's overtaken Joe yet because Joe's major trophy was a European trophy, and that's the only one we've ever had, so that's huge. He got an Anglo-Italian, which don't laugh about because he had a win away in Florence. He took two Anglo-Scottish second division championship, FA Cup final. I think he's just ahead of Eddie at the moment, but Eddie is threatening. Eddie's just starting his career at Newcastle. Eddie is threatening to be the best we've had, and hopefully will become that. But we cannot decide where he is for certain until it's over. But he's already gone ahead of Robson and Keegan, for goodness sake. Again, another thing Newcastle fans have talked about, Steve, should he have a statue? My answer to that is not yet. Please, not yet, because, let him complete his career at Newcastle and then decide. You can argue that Bobby Robson's got a statue and didn't win out, so why can't Eddie have one? But you can argue the other way, Steve, that Joe Harvey, with all he won, hasn't got a statue at all. So that seems to be an oversight. But let's wait and see where he ends up, and let's be grateful, really grateful for what he's done for us. And here's another one, mate. We've got Alan Shearer standing out there on a statue. Who's to say in 10 years' time the statue next to him will not be Alexander Isak if he stays here?
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be interesting with regards to statues and stuff like that. I think once we get the new ground, I think things will start to take shape. But I don't think it'll be a priority at the moment. I certainly don't think Eddie will be thinking about that. Just continuing on the Eddie theme, there was a lot of mischievous reporting, I guess, about Eddie's job prior to the cup final, saying that if Eddie lost the cup final, Newcastle may well pull the trigger and appoint a new manager. Do you think his job was ever under threat? I mean, he hasn't been backed. He hasn't been backed in 3 windows, John.
Oh, his job's never been in any. Good gracious me. We've had people like Steve McLaren and Steve Bruce and Joe Kinnear. I mean, that ought to be enough for us to be appreciative of Eddie before he won a cup, shouldn't it? Dear, oh dear, oh dear. I don't think there was ever any. Simon Jordan, for some reason, seems quite obsessed with it. He wants to keep promoting it, that he'll get the sack from the Saudis because he won't live up to what their high standards and what they will demand. He said that before he won his cup, and he's said it since. I don't know what his obsession is. Is it just that he's got to be proved right even when he's wrong? And no, I don't think for 1 second that Eddie was anywhere near the sack. Not at all. I think it's disrespectful to even suggest so. Because we ought to be appreciative of what we got. What do we want to do? Build somebody up, and then the minute they build up, make certain we'll pull them back down. I mean, Eddie has done a terrific job. We'll keep it in proportion. We're not going out to build a statue now to him and whatever. We'll be putting a statue up to dear old Jacob Murphy shortly if we're not careful. Can we just keep it in on it a little bit? But let's be appreciative of what Eddie has achieved at Newcastle. Because for me, if Steve, you look at winning this cup, the tactics that he employed to outmaneuver Mikel Arteta in the semi-final, with the five across the back and stepping out for high presses, etc., etc. And the amount of work he put in on the final because he thought he'd seen at Anfield that we could get some joy on set pieces, either free kicks or corners, which produced the Burn goal. And he noticed that McAllister is taken to mark the big centre half that comes up. Well, I mean, what a joke that was. McAllister tried to mark Dan Burn at 6'7", and he was staring at Dan Burn's navel, because that's the height he was, and Burn just moved off him, and boom, the header was in. But tactically, he's very, very good at it. He learns. You know what? People say that he's boring because all he wants to do is have a cup of cocoa and watch Newcastle on the telly. But we should be appreciative of the fact that he's boring, shouldn't we? Because his mind never stops working on what he should do next to improve the players, improve the team, etc., etc., etc. And what we saw in the League Cup, beating the top four sides in the Premier League, and the tactical performance in the semi-final and the final was nothing short of magnificent. And we ought to appreciate him while we've got him, appreciate Isaac while we've got him, appreciate Tonali, Gordon, etc., 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 because we don't want to just appreciate them when they've gone, and they all go because they go, and I don't mean transferred, they go as a matter of time. Players have to retire. But let's appreciate them now when we've got them, because we have some special players.
We certainly have, John, and we've now got Europe. We are in the Conference League next season. That can be improved though with the final 10 league games of the season, 6 of which are at home, 4 away. What's your feeling about the European competition side of things, John? Because we know that it did affect us with the injury list and the travelling, etc. First time for a long time that Newcastle had been on European travels since the days of Alan Pardew. So it did affect Newcastle United's team at this moment in time, but they've got the experience of doing that now, John, and they'll have learned a lot from that Champions League experience. Would it be better for Newcastle to be in the Conference League or the Europa League and potentially have a chance of winning it? Or do you think it would be better for them to be in the Champions League next season?
That's a very intriguing thought. By the way, when you said the Conference League, I go all unnecessary because I used to be in that with Gateshead. And I thought, we haven't fallen through all the divisions in the Conference League. But it's interesting, and just before you said what you said at the end, Steve, I was going to say to you, we've now qualified for the playoffs to get into the Conference League.
Yeah.
And of course, you win the playoffs, we'll get it. There is a case to say, if we want to keep winning trophies, just play in the Conference League, because I think we could win the Conference League next season. I see, and we definitely won't win the Champions League next season. But it's still where the big kudos is, where the big money is, where the drama is, the Champions League. So I think you've got to aim for the Champions League. But isn't it in the next 10 games? Because the big money's there. And if we get the big money through being in the Champions League, that helps us to buy players with the financial fair play situation. There's no question that with us in Europe now, and we are in, whether it's the conference or the Champions League, with us in Europe, we have got to buy and buy big and buy several this summer, because we're nowhere near the strength and depth needed for Europe. When you think you're also in 2 domestic cups and the Premier League, we've got to buy. But we're told that we definitely will, and we will. But we've got to at least buy 4. We've got to buy a goalkeeper, right-sided, centre half, outside right, and a centre forward. We've got to buy them to have any chance in Europe, because we're in 4 competitions. And it did kill us last time. We got the wonderful one-off with Paris Saint-Germain. But the rest of the competition, yes, we were unlucky time and time again, but we were out at the group stage, and it was tough. But you've got to aim high, Steve. If you aim low, you end up lower, because you very rarely reach everything you want to be. You've got to aim for the top of Everest and hope you can get 3/4 of the way up. It's not good aiming to get halfway up Everest, else you'll sit at the foot for the rest of your life. You've got to aim, and I want us in the next 10 games. Yes, we've got everything to play for. The season isn't over because we've won our first cup, and now it's time for the cigars, bus trip, with a trophy, etc., and then we'll all go on with jollies. We can get in the Champions League, or we can get in the Europa League, which is one up from the conference. So, those two are open to us. Let's go for them. And then let's buy good and well in the summer and then have a pop at it. Because unless you aim high, you fall low.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Very good point, John. Just looking at the, the trophy parade, it's yet to be announced. Lots of rumours flying around that it's going to be a bus trip around the city, and then obviously a big stage show potentially at somewhere like the Town Moor. I'm sure we'll hear more from Newcastle at a point. The trophy will be on display at the women's game this weekend. I've got nothing against that. For me, John, I think that the trophy should be on display in as many places as possible. And dare I say, another suggestion I've had is that, maybe once we've got all of those kind of presentations out the way, maybe it should be, go on a bit of a tour of non-league clubs during the summer, with an opportunity for non-league clubs to maybe charge for people to have their photograph taken with it, and that money get ploughed back into the non-league game. That would be my suggestion. But to be displayed at the women's game by Bob Moncur, the last man to lift silverware in '69, and Darren Eales, who we know is leaving the club, and we'll have a new CEO in his place very soon due to ill health. I don't think that's a bad thing, is it? Having 30,000 fans plus at a women's game, being able to see the trophy. As many people who can see that trophy should be able to see it, John. I'm not sure how you feel.
I think we're in a very false situation because it's quite unique, isn't it, Steve? I mean, I remember when Newcastle won the last domestic trophy, which was FA Cup in '55. I was a little school Ben. I went with my Uncle Frank into town, just round the central station, and watched them bring the cup home. And it was an ancient little bus, single-decker bus, with them all popping out the sunlight on the top, holding the trophy. And then when we won the last trophy, '69, I was in the coach behind the main coach, because coming back from Budapest, and we went down from the airport to St James's Park and showed the trophy. We haven't been able to do anything instantly, because the minute this cup was won, it's not like the FA Cup, the end of the season, you bring it back home, etc., etc. This was just before an international break. So half the players went off all the way around the world to play international football. The other half were about to go to Dubai for some warm weather training. So we still haven't had the a fortnight later, we're going to get this sort of ole with the players with the trophy. I'm slightly different to you in my feeling, Steve. I think it's terrific for the women and all that to get the cup, etc., etc. I just feel that the first time Newcastle United fans see the League Cup ought to be with the team that won it. It ought to be with the players and the cup which they'll do on the Saturday, whether it's on the town moor through the town or whatever. Showing the cup off. It's St James's with the former captain and the chief executive. I don't know. It just doesn't lie easy and right with me. I'm not against. It's not a big deal, but I want this. If I was a Newcastle fan, when I see that cup, I want it to be held by Bruno, and I want Trippier on one side of him and Big Dan Burn on the other, and I want the cup to be given to Eddie and let him step forward. I want the celebration to be with the people that actually won it, not somebody else calling it around for them to see. So without it being a big thing in my life or killing me off or something, I would have kept my powder dry and did it. You can do it, take it around a women's match in the future, but it's nothing against the women's situation. If the team were there with it and taking it round St James's Park at a women's match, now wouldn't that be ideal? But I don't want the cup. I don't want to be clapping the cup with two people holding it. With respect to both, and Bob's a dear friend of mine, have nothing to do with them winning it, if you know what I mean. I want to say thanks to Bruno and to Byrne and to Eddie Howe and to Joe Linton. And I just, we're in a daft situation, aren't we? Where we've
Yeah.
won the cup and we've had to wait a fortnight to do anything about it on Tyneside because they weren't bringing it back as a squad straight away because a lot of the squad were leaving from London for abroad. So it's been a difficult one, and I can see why the club have done it. And I'm not making a big fuss, and I'm certainly not disrespecting either Robert, who's a good friend of mine, or Darren Heels, who's done well for Newcastle and is in a tough old time for himself personally. But the first time Geordies cheer that cup, it ought to be with the people that won it, for me.
Okay, no problem, John. Everyone's got an opinion. If you've got an opinion, leave it in the comments below. From our perspective, John, Dan Burn has been absolutely immense this season. Many talk about him as being the the player of the season. I had a little bit of a little bit of a bad run up to the cup final, as did the team, but he bounced back and he was picked for England by Thomas Tuchel. And then, scored the opening goal in the cup final. I mean, it's a proper rags to riches story,
Oh,
that, isn't it?
it's ridiculous. I mean, I when Rambo come out, the film with Rocky, sorry, with Stallone, when that come out, I mean, I was a boxing fan, you're a boxing fan, but I'm laughing at it because I mean, in a lovely, warm way, because it was fiction, and you think nobody can do what Rocky did, come from being a deadbeat boxer to a world champion, and then here is Dan Burn done it. I mean, Hollywood should forget about Wrexham. I mean, Wrexham's nothing. They should forget about Rocky and they should just do the story about Big Dan. I mean, can you believe it? This is an Asda trolley pusher that played for fun for Blythe Town, Blythe Spartans, New Hartley Juniors when he was a kid, and all of us. And then he goes and plays for Darlington and Wigan and Yeovil Town. And then all of a sudden he gets a dream transfer to his hometown club that he supported as a kid, scores against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League, scores the breakthrough goal to win our first cup in 70 years, voted man of the match, and then buggers off to play for England. And he's 33 next month. I mean, most people at 33 are wondering where they're going to get the best pension from and whether they should go to Saudi for a couple of years. This fella is gone into the England squad and top of the pops for Newcastle United. It is absolutely wonderful. And it's amazing. I mean, it truly, truly is amazing. I mean, the fun story is the fun story is that Alan Shearer phoned him up after his wonderful header and we won the cup and said, "Hey, I tell you what, mate, you better retire now because nothing will top that." And Big Dan Burn said, "I think something might happen in a couple of days' time," and it was an England call up. I mean, even Alan Shearer, when he said retire, you may as well, his tongue was in his cheek, of course. He was having a bit of fun. This is your greatest moment ever. And it is until he gets his first England cap, Friday night or Monday night. And Thomas, if you're listening, for goodness sake, get him on the pitch in one of those two games so that he is an England international. Because we've had players picked for the full England squad in the past, Newcastle United. People like Stephen Taylor, the centre half, who was twice in a full England squad. John Beresford with the Entertainers was in an England squad in Turkey, but they never got on the field, so they're never able to say they're full England internationals. So let's get Dan on the field either Friday night or Monday night so that he is full England international. And then the story is just complete. Well, is it complete? I mean, the way Dan Burns going on, he'll go into the Champions League next season and not the winner for us in the final of the Champions League. I mean, it's daft, isn't it? It's wonderfully crazy, wacky. I mean, could just happen up here. Isn't it lovely, though? Isn't it lovely? Because he is a big-hearted guy who a lot, I've always said, a great professional, etc., etc., but almost implied that, he is battered above his weight because of his determination and that, and he's a bit one-paced and a bit that and a bit that, but hasn't he done well? Didn't he do well to get a big club like Newcastle? Well, he played in the Champions League and now he's an England national. He's got essentially what become the breakthrough goal, the winner in the cup final, first in 70 years. I think that Newcastle shouldn't make a statue of him, mind, because it'll be too costly. Because at 6'7", they're going to take an awful lot of bronze to make that statue. And anyway, the planes won't be able to land in Newcastle because it'll be a diversion with that and Gray's Monument. They won't know which way they're coming into the airport. But well done him, well done, Dan.
Sandro Tonali, you mentioned him at the start of the programme. I mean, talk about redemption. To have a full season out, missing a full season, John, and, capping it this season with some wonderful performances. And, we all know how much, he's revered in Italy. I mean, he's already played an international this week and played another 90-minute shift, scored another goal on the losing side, unfortunately, for Italy against Germany this week. But they call him the machine in Italy, and you can see why. He's been a massive, massive player for us this season, John.
Oh, absolutely huge. He's justified every penny of his £52 million transfer fee. He is currently the second most costliest player in Newcastle United's history after Alexander Isak. And he looks absolute quality. And you know why the Italians are suddenly gurgling about him? Because he's a 90-minute box-to-box player. They keep commenting on the fact that in the 92nd minute, he's running as quick and as enthusiastically as he is in the first minute. You know why? Because Eddie's got him so fit at St James's Park. Serie A is walking football. Serie A is walking football. Here, he's sprinting, he's box to box, because he's ultra fit, as Gordon become, as Lewis Hall becomes, because it's demanded by Eddie. Therefore, when he goes into their team, which is a little bit more measured and one-paced, and he goes in with the relentless way he plays at Newcastle, he stands out like a Belisha beacon. And he has been superb. And moving from the right side of the three in the midfield to central midfield, where he takes the blinkers off in his vision, he can see everything that's happening, right wing, left wing, and forward. He has been sensational. And, who's Newcastle United's best player of the year? You could vote Dan Burn. You could vote Tonali. You could vote Isak for his goals. You could vote Lewis Hall before he got injured because of what he had to put up with last season. And then he's suddenly not only got in the Newcastle team, but he's becoming England international. So, there's so many plus stories, aren't there?
Yeah, there's some fantastic stories. There really is. Again, as well, just getting back to the cup final, and I make no apologies for talking about that.
Yeah, keep going, pal. Keep going. It's spot on, isn't it?
The goalkeeping situation which we talked about, I think we all groaned when Nick Pope went in the goal, because he hasn't been in the greatest of form, but he just found something, didn't he, on the day? And I mean, as I say, didn't have a great deal to do, but what he did do, he did well. And watching Martin Dubravka in the celebrations afterwards, yeah, I'm sure he was disappointed that he didn't get the nod to play. But I still think both of them have probably got a part to play towards the back end of the season. And again, I think you've got to pay a compliment to Eddie Howe, because it's all about man management, that kind of situation where somebody doesn't play. There was reasons to play both, and there's reasons not to play both. But he got it right, and yeah, I mean, credit to Nick Pope. He had a horrendous time in the last time we got to Wembley, because of course he missed it. He got suspended, John.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, for him, you can go the other way and say Dubravka must be biting the bedpost, because Newcastle have got to Wembley twice in League Cup finals, and he didn't play in either. He would have played for Pope 2 years ago, but for the fact that he'd fleetingly played for Manchester United and was there for cup tie, and he might well have got a start this time, but didn't. So Pope, it was wonderful for Nick to get a winner's medal and actually have earned it by being in the team, having not been in the team last time. Dubravka, you've got to feel a little bit sorry for, because he's twice missed out with Newcastle United, out of keeping goal for them in a League Cup final. But he's done terrific for us, and he's part of the squad, and well done him. But who would have thought, Steve, before we went to Wembley, when we first heard we were going to have to go to Wembley without Anthony Gordon, without Lewis Hall, and without Sven Botman, and not certain who on earth to play in goal, I mean, we were low in the snake's belly, weren't we? Who would have thought at that moment that we would find the answers and produce a performance of the quality that we did. Without those key players, it was astonishing as well as wonderful, Steve. It was astonishing, mate.
And the way forward now, John, for Newcastle is hopefully to spend some money. We're seeing the media linking Newcastle United's players with exits. I did laugh on Twitter straight after the cup final. It was going to be a tug of war between Liverpool and Arsenal for Alexander Isak's services. But you know what? Watching Alexander Isak on international duty this week, he's done a really great interview where he literally just says, I've said many times, I'm very happy at Newcastle, and he's got no intention of going anywhere. And Newcastle really should be in the headlines for being linked with players like maybe Saka or Salah. Are those players going to come to Newcastle, John?
Yeah, well, why not? I mean, I've already written a column saying, please, can we put to bed, because the story was always Newcastle win out, so we are a stepping stone for good players. So where's Bruno going next when somebody pays his sellout clause? Where's Isak going next? Is Gordon going to go to Liverpool? No doubt Tonali will come into that at some stage. And it's an absolute nonsense. Right now, as we stand, we have got a trophy this season. Manchester City, I know they might yet win the FA Cup, but Manchester City have no trophy. Arsenal have no trophy. Arsenal aren't going to win a trophy this year because they're not going to win, in my humble opinion, the Champions League and out of the FA Cup, and then we put them out of the League Cup. So Arsenal's going to win out, and we are going to win something. But all our players will want to go to Arsenal instead of staying with Newcastle. I mean, three letters jump to mind there: WHY. Why would they want to go? I mean, if Arsenal have won now and Newcastle have won something, why do you have to jump on Arsenal's bandwagon so you can win something? They haven't won anything. They've been runners up twice, three times, four. It doesn't matter. That's who remembers finishing second. And nobody will remember that Liverpool was second to Newcastle in the League Cup, apart from Newcastle, of course, who will love relishing beating Liverpool at long last. But yes, we've had all these stories. They must go here, they must go there, they must go somewhere else. I mean, please, let's put all that to bed. Why don't we say, as you rightly say, hey, Saka or Declan Rice, or if you want to win something, do you fancy coming up here and playing for us? And let us rattle their cages. What we will get, Steve, we will still get the clubs this summer trying to unsettle the likes of Isaac by leaking stories into the national press about we would love Isaac and we'll put a bid for 90 million in for him, knowing that that's too small, but just to get the guy perhaps unsettled and saying something to Newcastle. The players don't want to leave. They're happy. The club are happy. Everybody's happy. But the rest of the country will not accept that. And you will get some pot stirrers, whether they're from Arsenal or Liverpool or the two Manchesters, who will try to stir the pot and sully the water, and we'll get. But if I don't think anybody will leave this summer of consequence. Of course, people will leave. You know, Callum Wilson could leave. Sean Longstaff could leave. Lascelles could leave, etc., etc. Of course, people will leave, but not the big hitters. And then let's see what we get in. And if we get in the people we want in, we'll be that much stronger for next season. And we've kept our powder dry, which means we have got financial clout, financial muscle that we can use this summer because we've done now for the last three windows. So we have got leeway to be able to do that.
Last question, John, before we finish today. Bruno, we spoke about him getting the captaincy this year. Was it the right thing? Wasn't it the right thing? I think seeing him in the way that he embraced Trippier and Lascelles and got them to, involved in lifting the trophy, I thought just showed the true stamp of the man. But just looking at the way the players reacted, going up the Wembley stairs, on the pitch, etc., you can see there's a close bond, and you can see the respect him as a captain. Do you think now moving forward he will be the man to potentially lead Newcastle to further glory?
Yes, I think so. Why not? Because the other two guys you mentioned there that have been in the captaincy situation, with respect to them, are no longer competition for them in terms of the armband. Because Trippier's 34, he could well go this summer. He was magnificent in the final, by the way. He wasn't even
Yes.
supposed to start the final, and he was absolutely magnificent. But he's not going to captain Newcastle again. He's on the other side of the hill, gently walking into the sunlight, whereas Bruno and the other guys are still going up there. So you're not going to get Trippier going for captain. You're not going to get Lascelles going for captain anymore because his days as an automatic first teamer are over. Bruno, the only worry I think any of ever had was, and certainly was my worry, Steve, was that he almost cared too much. You know, he was almost so passionate about Newcastle United. You expected him to lose his head and start cutting people in half if things weren't going right and getting himself booked or sent off or becoming ill-disciplined when you need discipline, which is what Tonali's got and Joe Linton's got in abundance. And you just wondered if that. But isn't it Dr. Geordie? We talk about Newcastle United having players like Jacob Murphy and Sean Longstaff when he was around. Big Dan Byrne, of course, Lewis Hall, who, as kids, were Newcastle United fans. This guy's bought into all that. He is a Newcastle United fanatic. You can see the tears in his eyes. You can see how much he loves it. And I think that could be the making of him, that winning that trophy with him, the one to be the captain that did it. In his first season of captaincy, Steve, first season, and he's got a trophy for us. I mean, you know, he's been the figurehead that lifted it. Absolutely wonderful. But you know what? At the moment, there's nothing but plus stories, is there? And isn't that wonderful? Because we've spent 30, 40, 50 years saying, I haven't got this, I haven't got. You know what? We've just spent an hour on a program and we haven't had to think of anything negative whatsoever. And my ankles, by the way, just beneath the table here, are tied to the bottom of the chair, so stop me lifting off into the air with elation. And it's been that way for about 5 days now, and it'll be that way for the rest of the season. It's wonderful. And you know what? We, and I'm talking about you and me, and the 50,000 Geordies who are in St James's every home game, and the other 50,000 Geordies who can't get in the ground, and the 100,000 Geordies scattered throughout the world, we've all earned this, you know, because we've all been with Newcastle United longer than the players, because a player's life is quite short. Ours is cradle to grave. And we've earned what we've got, and it's as much, in my eyes, for the Geordies as it is for the players, and it is for Eddie, and I'm thrilled for them, and they've done it on our behalf, and we couldn't thank them enough. But I tell you what, who deserves it more than anybody? The fans.
We will be great place to leave it, John. We will be back, of course, in a week's time. Next week, I think we'll do an Ask Gibbo where we ask you, get supporters to ask you questions, maybe about memories of the game, etc. Because we've got a little period where we haven't got a game, a Newcastle United game. Our next fixture, of course, 2nd of April against Brentford. So, John, enjoy yourself. It's go and watch the cup final game, John.
I tell you what, I've got such a smile on me. From one side to the other, it would take me 20 minutes to cross it. The smile's that wide. Top of the pops, been absolutely smashing. And by the way, when I talk to you the next time, it'll still be smashing. We won't have lost the game. We won't have played a game. We'll just be basking in the sunshine. And that's a wonderful feeling. Long overdue. And I tell you what, I've just got a feeling there's more of these days to come, Stephen.
Take care, John.
All the best, pal. Take care, mate. Bye-bye.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. A big thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Find them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email them at beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. You can find them at their website, media-arts.co.uk. If you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and your other podcast providers. If you want to help support the channel, hit the thumb up, which is the like button. Click share to share to your other social medias. Click join to join the channel. And click the subscribe button. We've also got links in our description for buy us a coffee and to be a Patreon member. Some events coming up. An afternoon with Sir Les Ferdinand, 6th of April, 12 till 4. Tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. No Covers takes place at the Clooney, Lilac Lane, Ryder and the Chris Norris Band. Tickets from theclooney.com or by telephone in 0191 230 4474. An evening with Steve Howe and Steve Watson, hosted by Joe Allen, takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 27th of June. Tickets for that are from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on the 23rd of January 2026. Box office 0844 246 1000 or website tynetheatreandoperahouse.tv. An evening with Bad Manners takes place on Friday the 30th of January 2026 and tickets available from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainers 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, available from newcastlelegends.com.